All right, how's everybody doing tonight? Great, wonderful, perfect. Ready to get started? All right, tonight we're going to be starting or going over white balance. If you want to get your cameras out, we'll be looking at the end here, playing around with your manual white balance this week. Some of your cameras might not have manual white balance. Don't worry about it. I will tweak, well, actually for the assignment take home, you don't need to use your manual anyway. But if you do have it, that's great. If you don't, you'll know what it is and how to use it when you do get a camera that does have manual white balance. Okay, so there's 3 links in here we're going to look at as far as notes. After our notes section, we're going to go into the in class, which you're going to basically, there's a little real short video we're going to watch, and then I'm going to have you work in groups when you leave tonight to practice taking photos using your white balance on your camera. Specifically those in your group that have manual mode, you're going to play with those. If you don't have manual mode, you're going to use your presets like sunny, cloudy, or indoors. So I'm going to have you take a few shots of folks in your group before you leave tonight, and then you'll submit that to the week 6 in class when you get home in Foki. Had a few questions on Foki. It's a free membership, but I believe when you sign up, it gives you like the trial initially, and at the end of the trial, it prompts you, hey, do you want to become a full member? You can just cancel out of that and keep the free membership with the ads and everything. So if you didn't figure that out, I did reply to a few students on that and posted that information, but that will happen. They'll just keep reminding you probably of doing that. And then for your take home, we'll go over this before you leave, but I just want to kind of give a heads up. On this one, you're going to be using white balance exercise, and you're going to be focusing mainly on the, first of all, the auto white balance. Then you're going to set the white balance to sunlight. Then you're going to set the white balance to the correct white balance for that setting, and we'll go over that, what that means. Challenge is optional if you do have manual mode. The challenge is to use your manual mode for the take home. Okay, so go ahead and go back to the notes. I'm a little under the weather tonight, so if I'm not as loud as I used to, or if I'm too loud, I can't even hear myself talk. And so that's why. I feel like I'm in a drum with all the cold medicine I'm on. So, yeah, man. Okay. So we want that link. This one. And this one. Okay, so let's look at the first one, which is this screen here. And let me see if I can bring that in a little bit bigger. There we go, hopefully that's better. Okay, so we talked about white balance a little bit already this semester, basically talking about how you cannot have true color if you don't have true white. And when your camera doesn't know true white, it can't know true color. And so by determining or letting the camera know what true white is, it can know then what true color. Now the opposite's true as well. You could tell the camera, hey, this is white, but it's really not, and make the colors offset and make them kind of artistic kind of view. And sometimes you want to do that. And so we'll look at some examples of that. So white balance is an aspect of photography that many digital cameras owners don't understand or use. Thus far, you guys have used your auto settings and white balance, I know. But we're going to look this week into a little bit more detail on white balance, how it's used. And so at its simplest, the reason we adjust white balance is to get the colors in your images as accurate as possible. So your blues to be blues, your reds to be reds, your magenta to be magenta, your yellow to be yellow, all your primary colors to be the color they actually are. Does that make sense? And so without it's kind of like your eyes. Without the whites of your eyes, the color of your eye would not be what it is, whatever that color might be, whether it be blue, brown. The white of your eyes brings out the color of your eye. And you know, if anybody have a white car, anybody have a white vehicle, or parents have a white vehicle? Okay, what's the deal with the white car during this time of year? What do you see? Every single little imperfection as far as dirt, smudges, gray, grime, that's what I call it. After the snow and the ice is gone, we get that gray film everywhere, which I don't like. I don't mind snow, I don't even mind ice. Snow better than ice. But when all that's done, like now when it's kind of melting, it's all gray film. If you have a white car, you can really tell. If you have a darker car or a darker color car, you can hide it a little bit better. But white you can. It brings out all the imperfections. You might have noticed when examining pictures after you've taken them, they come out with maybe like an orange hue or a blue hue or a yellow hue, despite the fact that to your eye, it looked normal when you looked at it. Looked great. It was a white bottle. I don't know why it's coming out pink. It's a pink bottle. Why is it coming out white? And the reason is the images have different light sources and have a different temperature upon that light source. Like fluorescent lights give a bluish cast to photos, where tungsten, like old-fashioned incandescent bulbs, which we can't buy anymore, give a yellowish tint, kind of like I grew up in the generation where you had more people smoke than this generation, and so a lot of my friends, my parents, smoked in the house, and literally in rooms where people smoked a lot, it would turn things a little yellowish because of all the smoke all the time. Same thing if you go into a restaurant that had a lot of smoke in it, or bars, so on and so forth. But when you took photos back then, since everything had the incandescent bulbs, like with a Polaroid camera or any type of camera, everything had a kind of a yellowish tint to the camera, especially the old Polaroid photos. So here's an example of 3 bottles of the same setting, the same photo setting, and you'll notice each one of these 3 is a different tint. I want to focus on really the left little bottle in the basket. You'll notice the left one's a little bluish, the middle one's pretty white, and then the right one's a little yellowish, all right, just by looking at it. They range different, and they're all different because of the color of light that was around it at the time. Or not the color, the temperature of light that was around at the time. We don't generally notice this difference in temperature with our eyes because it adjusts when we walk into a room automatically. When you guys walk in here tonight, it might be a little darker than the last class you were in or out there in the computer lab, but your eyes adjust automatically and you can see just fine. So unless the temperature of the light is very extreme, like in your face extreme, or pitch dark where there's no light whatsoever, our eyes pretty much adjust. And so because of that, a white sheet of paper will generally look white to us, regardless of what the light is around us. If there's any light whatsoever around us, a piece of white paper, our eyes will adjust to make it look white. It will look white to us. Our eyes will adjust to it. However, a digital camera is not as clever as your eyes, and it doesn't make the adjustments automatically, so we need to tell it how to treat different light. So for cooler green or blue light, you tell the camera to warm things up. In a warm light, you tell it to cool things down. In old film cameras, you normally just had a choice of 2, daylight or tungsten, and that's it. Of course, using old film or one film for both situations would be impossible. So with the advent of digital cameras, we now have the great tool to adjust white balance. We no longer have to put up with wrong white balance in our photos. So different digital cameras, everybody in here is going to be different on this, what we're going to talk about tonight. Adjust white balance differently. And it's again according to your sensor, like everything else in your camera, how it adjusts itself. Your camera's manual will help you. You really don't need it though. You can figure it out tonight when we go through this. Having said this, almost all digital cameras have automatic, semi-automatic modes that make adjustments. So let's look at some presets. If you look at your camera right now, we're going to bring it out. We're going to look at the menu. Whatever your camera, whether it's a point and shoot all the way up to DSLR, we're going to bring up the white balance menu on your camera. You might have to look around a little bit to find it. But when you find the white balance area of your menu or of your camera, go to that area and just kind of camp there for a little bit and go through the different settings. You're going to have different what I have on the overhead here, but we're going to go through some of these settings. And pretty much all the cameras are going to have these settings. They might just name them different. Okay? So is everybody finding that white balance area? Anybody need help finding that? Okay, so let's go over the first one. Every camera will have this. Every one of them, 100% of you, will have the auto white balance. This is where the camera makes a best guess on a shot-by-shot basis. It does work in most situations, but it's worth venturing out for trickier lighting. Tungsten. Tungsten, remember, is the old light bulbs. This mode is usually symbolized with a light bulb and is for shooting indoors, especially under tungsten, incandescent, such as a bulb lighting. It generally cools down the colors in photos and adding some blue. Beefaroo on Riverside still has some old tungsten bulbs. If you get a chance to go in there this week and look at them, they've ordered and still have old tungsten bulbs and some of the lamps, not all of them, but some of them. And you know, the larger bulbs are really nice. But it'd be kind of cool maybe this week for your take home to go into Beefaroo, or if you wanted to do this for your lab tonight when you leave, can't stop you from doing that. You go to Beefaroo and take your photos, be done with it. Go to Beefaroo and take your photos at one of the booths that has a tungsten light. The first time I tell students about a tungsten light, they just, maybe I was the same way when I first began going into lighting. I just knew lights worked in a room or they didn't. I didn't really know there was a different types of lights. I mean, I did, but you know, didn't really, between a fluorescent, I knew it between fluorescent and an old-fashioned home-fashioned bulb, but there's so many out today. There's so many different types of lights. If you just go on Menards or you're going to Lowe's, walk down the light aisle, there's just so many different types of lights. And if you ever get a chance to go to Edison's website, they have a museum website for Edison, on the one that created the bulb, on all the different iterations of that bulb he created up to when it was actually in, I think he's something like, I don't remember, 5,000 tries before he ever was successful. And he really didn't venture out to create the light bulb. It just kind of happened. It was a side thing he was doing. So let's look at fluorescent. It compensates for the cool. So when you switch to fluorescent, compensates for the cool or slightly green to fluorescent lighting, like in this room. It has two options usually on some of your cameras, like normal and halogen. But some of yours will actually have more than that. Like today's cameras might have LED option possibly for this one, which is a real popular light now for indoors, and even cars now have LED lights. Daylight sunny. Not all cameras will have the setting. Most of yours will, I'm guessing, will have this setting, a sunny or a sun, you know, a bright sun on the dial. What this one does is, because it sets things at a fairly normal white balance, it warms up a shot, adding a yellow and orange to the bright light. Cloudy, this generally warms things up a touch by more than daylight mode. Flash. If you're using a flash on your camera, you can use the flash white balance mode that will cool the light of the flash. WB mode, you'll find it warms up a shot a little bit, and they'll have all the whitewash from a flash bulb. Shade, the light in the shade is generally cooler than shooting in direct sunlight, so this mode will warm things up a little bit. And yours might be different than this, but in general, I'm guessing most of you have those settings, might be called something a little different. Now let's talk about manual white balance. In most cases, you can get pretty accurate results with the above presets, meaning 90% of the time you're good with your presets. That 10% of the time, if you have manual mode on your camera, this is where it comes in to help you. Most of your digital cameras, even point and shoot, now have manual mode. What this does is, the way this is used, it varies a little bit between model and model, but in essence what you do is tell the camera what white looks like and gives a point of reference. And so I'm going to go ahead and give you a very important tool that will help you. And if somebody can pass these out for me, that would be great. I want to pass off my germs. Somebody volunteer to do that. Thank you. All right. We're going to do something really technical here in just a second once you get this piece of paper. Thank you for passing those out. While she's passing these out, I want to talk about the second paragraph there. It says you can go out and buy what's a gray card or a white card at any camera shop. They're not that expensive, but for over the years, I've always just used a white piece of paper because it basically does the same thing. So what you're going to do is, with your fancy sheet of paper here, you're going to fold it in half once, like so. Fold it in half once, like that. Thank you. And then once you fold it in half once this way, you're going to fold it in half again this way. And then this piece of paper you can keep in your camera bag, and then when it gets too crimply and crumply, you can just replace it with another piece of paper. Pretty cheap, right? But it works. And what you do is, in your manual mode on your camera, when you go there, you don't need to go there now, but we'll go there in a second. Those have manual mode. It allows you to set the white balance manually. What you do is you take a piece of white paper. On most of your manual modes, it tells you to press the button halfway down and hold it towards the white paper, and then press it all the way down. And basically what it's doing is taking a picture of this piece of white paper. That's what it's doing. And then it stores it into your camera and becomes a source for white for that setting, for that picture setting. So we're going to look at some shots here and look at the differences. This first shot is taken with some books using auto white balance, which we've all used most of the time when we take photos. The light in the room here, it says, is from 3 standard light bulbs, incandescent. And as a result, the image is quite warm. I'm going to turn off this light so you can see it a little bit better. It's a little bit warm, meaning it's going to be darker, more dark than light in the contrast. And so, what kind of hue color do you see on the outside of all these books at the top, mainly, kind of covering everything? What color? Kind of a yellow orangish, maybe, right? Somewhere in that area. And so this is what the automatic setting would do, maybe to a bookshelf at home that has an old incandescent lamp around it, or just a standard floor lamp, which a lot of us have next to a bookshelf. Now, after taking this picture and holding up a white piece of paper to the camera to tell it what the white color is, and taking a second shot, look how much truer now the colors in the photo look, or in the books look, than the first image. So that's the second image, and I'll just keep it like that. So you can see right there, more of a yellowish tint at the top and more truer color at the bottom. Make sense? And really what I want you to focus on is that second, or sorry, it's the fourth book from the right. The Tawny Odell, this one here. It has a true white. It is a white binding, and so by making it true white to the piece of paper, you'll notice how it brought out all the colors of the other books. Before, it kind of just blended all the colors together, really. Kind of like putting a yellow film over the top of it or something. So all from just shooting it with a manual white balance with a white piece of paper brings out that true color in your image. Now, some of you, I know one of the main questions a lot of students have coming in this class, my images look, have looked like they have a hue over it, or they're a little, every one of them's a little dark. A lot of times it's because of this right here, white balance, okay? You're taking photos indoors mainly, and if you're taking photos indoors mainly, then you're gonna have to always have a challenge with white balance, especially with terrible lighting. And that's where the white balance and manual mode comes into play and helps you with your photos. Now, outside is not as bad because outside lighting, as long as there's daylight, is always fairly good. Now, early morning and dusk is best, but you're not going to have as many issues outdoors as you are indoors because of all the different variants of light bulbs that are out. So a pretty drastic change, right, between automatic and manual white balance. So let's go to some more creative uses before we start playing with the manual mode in a second. And by the way, those that don't have manual mode, I'll probably pair you up with those that do, just so you can kind of see how it works. And if you don't have it, it's no big deal. I do not want you to go out buying a camera this week because you'll have white balance manual mode. Don't do that, okay? Because you'll be fine without it. So there's times when a photographer does not want accurate colors in your photography. A warm-up filter on a film SLR was great when photographing sunsets, and the results may be quite spectacular, like fairly warm tones in the photos became even warmer. Of course, you don't go out and buy yourself really expensive colored filters for your digital camera. Many allow you to attach them, especially DSLRs. However, if you just use white balance controls on your camera, you can impact the color of your images drastically. Not only correcting them, but maybe giving them some type of artistic look and feel to your shots. So the first below shot is taken in auto white balance. The camera took a guess at what colors they were and got a pretty good spot on guess at the colors of these petals and also of the leaves. Fairly good, right? Not too bad. Now the following was exactly the same photo setting as the first, but the white balance was changed. This camera allowed you to actually change the Kelvin setting of white balance to 2800, making it more cooling it down, and actually making it more bluer. Kind of like it's really cold outside, almost like a frost almost. And this would basically be like in most of your cameras, taking it and putting like a shade mode, changing it to the auto shade mode on your white balance would do the same thing. Here, taking it and instead of the 18 or 2800, it's 10,000 Kelvin, which gives it more of an orange cast. And this one basically, you can get the orange cast by, like, say, doing on an auto white balance setting, maybe something like bright sun. Bright sun would give this type of effect, or a sunny setting would get this type of effect. It's expecting, you're telling the camera it's bright and sunny, but it may be not bright and sunny. This is the type of effect you could get. So again, kind of artistic, both of these from the original. But you can play around with your white balance to determine what you like. So the first shot is best when if we were photographing a sunset beach at the end of a hot summer's day, The last shot might add something to a mood and feel of the image. On the other hand, if you're shooting on a cold, misty winters outside in the countryside, you'd want to enhance the feeling with cooler tones. Now I want to go down to artistic effect. I want to actually just look at this image and talk about it. Okay. This person here is on a beach, right? And does their skin look kind of tan in this picture? It does, but their skin is not tan. By adjusting the white balance on your camera, you can make it look tan. In this case, it's pretty sunny outside, and you can take it and change your camera to like a shade mode, and it would give this effect. It would give a darker skin tone naturally to whatever person you're taking a photo of. So next time you go to the beach with somebody and you don't have a tan and you're going to take photos, you can just change it to shade and give yourself an instant tan. All right? And you don't have to worry about it. Nobody knows the wiser. And so basically you're telling the camera the wrong white balance, but you're giving an artistic effect for your photo, which is kind of cool. And then also this one here is the original. You could take this to make it look even bluer. We could actually take it and make it in a sunny white balance, and it would take this photo and make the icicles kind of bluish, so make it even seem colder than it might really be. So take this normal looking icicles dripping, change it to a sunny white balance, and it would make it really, really, really look cold. Okay, the next one we'll look at, the next document is, this is just some examples of different white balance settings and what they look like. So we're going to look at these here, just going to look at the shots actually. This is direct sunlight, and I'll point out what the settings are here below. This is auto white balance right here, the bigger one. This is auto white balance. And let me blow the picture up just a little bit. That's auto white balance, the top one. Here's tungsten. That has a bluish tint. Direct sunlight, pretty much the same. Not too much different than this one. It's a little bit lighter maybe. Cloudy, pretty much the same. Shade, not much different. Might be a little brighter actually. And then this camera actually lets you play with, and some of your cameras will, the Kelvin level, the degrees of the camera, temperature-wise. The most drastic one out of all of these, though, is which one? Out of all 5 of these here. Yeah, right. The tungsten one probably is the most drastic effect, kind of artistic bluish effect. Now you notice the sky's still blue, but it actually put kind of a bluish tint over everything, over the house color. Everything pretty much has that blue tint over it. Let's go to the next one. This is a shade, a white car in an open garage. Again, the top one is a normal auto white balance, so the colors is as best guess the camera sees it. Then bottom left, tungsten. Then next to that, sunlight, cloudy, and then shade. Looks like the 2 on this one that are really the 3 that actually does change the color quite a bit is these 3 here. This one the most for sure, the tungsten. But then the direct sunlight and cloudy actually makes it a little bit darker, or the direct sunlight a little darker. This one's a little bit lighter, but kind of brings a white kind of film over everything. Now, tungsten conventional light bulbs, which everybody has still for the most part in your refrigerator to light the indoor, of your refrigerator. So this top one, automatic, right? Then we have tungsten. What did it do there when it changed to tungsten? Here's automatic, then tungsten. What did it, in your own words, what did tungsten do to that photo? It made it, yeah, whiter and brighter both, really, right? Then direct sunlight pretty much looks the same as auto. Cloudy, pretty much the same too, and shade, pretty much the same. So the one that really made a drastic difference is the tungsten. The tungsten filter made a big difference. Next is indoors at night, low voltage, low wattage tungsten bulbs. We see a lot of this in our houses, right? Over the dining room table, kitchen table, where we eat, breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever. Normal, auto white balance. Now let's look at the other effects. Tungsten, direct sunlight, cloudy, and shade. Which one of these at the bottom is the most drastic? Tungsten again, right? Tungsten really adds in, takes that yellowish kind of tint from the bulbs and makes kind of more whiter look on that. Tungsten does. But you have to remember, the tungsten filter is probably the correct one to use on this one because those bulbs are tungsten. And so by using the tungsten filter, you're going to get a truer white in that photo. If it was fluorescent, we'd use a fluorescent and get a truer white. So summary, I have no idea why people make it so complicated. Just use what looks good, and then you're good. Now, the last document I'm going to look at is this one here. This is just kind of a automatic kind of visual of what happens when you change the dial on your photo, on your camera to different white balances. So here's what's called a white bloodroot flower, which I've literally never seen in real life. Maybe some of you have. It was photographed against a fallen birch tree. Well, I've seen many birch trees. Using a variety of white balance settings. The effects the settings have on the colors in the image range from very subtle to very dramatic. So we're going to start with the cloudy, which is on, it's right now on cloudy. And let me make this a little bit bigger here. So I have cloudy. Then we're going to go to tungsten. That's pretty drastic, right? What does tungsten do to the photo that you can see when I change it to tungsten? What's it do automatically? Yeah, kind of a bluish tint. Now let's look at the auto white balance. We'll compare auto white balance to cloudy. What's the difference between cloudy and auto white balance? There's cloudy, there's auto white balance. Almost the same, but there is slight differences for sure. Now let's go to flash. We'll go auto white balance to flash. It actually brightened it up just a tad, right, at the top. But notice the bottom of the picture. When I go to, look at the bottom while I'm up here right now on auto. Now I'm going to go to the flash. What did it do at the bottom there? The darkers became darker, and the white became whiter with the flash. And it kind of makes sense because if you go outside right now and you turn the flash on your camera and take a picture of somebody against any backdrop on campus, that person will come out really clear, but everything behind that person will become dark, okay, when you use flash. Next one is fluorescent. What did that do? Let's go to auto. There's auto. Fluorescent. What does somebody say? Blue, kind of a bluish tint over that. Then we have daylight. So we'll do auto white balance, daylight. Yeah. If you notice the bottom part of the picture, kind of focus on that right now on daylight. I'm going to switch it from daylight while you're looking at the bottom part and go to auto white balance. And so daylight's a little brighter all around, and so far probably the best setting as far as true colors probably. And then lastly is a shade. Shade makes things what? Lighter, darker, the same? Kind of makes it dull, right? In fact, you look at the little yellow parts of the flower in the middle. I'll just kind of focus on that right now. I'm going to keep it on shade right now. I'm going to move it up to the next one. Yeah, it really puts kind of a gray film, shade does, over the entire photo. So again, one last time, cloudy, tungsten, auto, flash, fluorescent, daylight, and shade. Now what I want you to do is raise your hand if you do have manual mode on your camera. You do have manual mode on your camera. Raise it high so everybody can see. Because if you don't have manual mode, I want you to pair with somebody around you that just raised their hand. So I want everybody next to somebody that does have manual mode to do this next exercise together.
Is that custom? Custom white balance?
What?
With custom white balance? Do that.
I'm sorry?
Custom white balance?
Custom, yeah, custom will work. Yeah, custom or manual mode, either one will work on your cameras. So pair up with somebody, and I'm going to kind of walk you through this little exercise for manual. Okay, so everybody have, or next to somebody that has manual mode or custom? Yeah, preset manual. Yep. Your cameras will all say something different. It'll be manual, preset manual, custom. If you have a question, let me know on that. So, get next to somebody, and then we're going to watch this really long video. No, it's a very short video. But he gives a pretty good video here. Whoa. Sorry. There we go. Okay, so let's everybody watch this video real quick on white balance and manual setting, and then I'll help you as well. Might be still downloading. If it doesn't work, it's no big deal. Okay, here we go.
Hello, welcome once again to Photography in 90 Seconds. Today's topic is custom white balance. Now, as we move from room to room and under different lighting conditions, our eyes adapt naturally and set the white balance appropriately. But for a digital camera, the process is a little bit different. Now, most digital cameras have an automatic white balance setting, and this does a pretty good job, but unfortunately, it's only approximate. Now, if you're serious about getting proper colors, proper skin tones, and having a proper color workflow, you're going to want to set the white balance manually. Now, fortunately, this is a fairly easy process. What you're going to need is a spectrally neutral gray card, like the following.
There's your gray card.
Now, if you're shooting in RAW, the process is very simple. All you need to do is take a picture of this card with your model under the right lighting conditions, and in post-processing, you can just select a portion of this to set the white balance, and then sync that across all of the images. Now, if you're shooting in JPEG or video, it's quite crucial that you set the white balance in camera. Now, to do that, each camera system will be slightly different, but it'll likely involve taking a picture of a gray card like this, and then under the menu system, once you've filled the frame with this card, in the menu system, select the image of this card as your reference point, and then click OK or agree to set the custom white balance for that image. Now, the second step will likely be going and changing the white balance from automatic down to the custom setting, and the icon typically looks like this. I just want to reiterate, if you're serious about a good color workflow, it's very crucial that you set the white balance manually.
I'm going to go back to this slide here and keep it there because those are the actual steps that we're going to focus on. Right there. So the first thing is, in your camera, what you want to do is, if you have a partner with you, this is going to work perfect. Your partner that does not have white balance, the manual white balance anyway, is going to hold the photo up just like this. And so you'll both have to stand up to do this, but whoever's holding the white card can just hold it up like this. The person controlling the camera is going to go to your manual mode or custom white balance or whatever it is that yours says for custom, manual, custom white balance, kind of interchangeable. And then follow the directions in your camera to set that manual white balance. It gives you step by step generally in that area. It'll say generally to point the camera to the white setting or white area, press halfway down your button, take a photo, and then set that as the white balance for the photo. And then you're going to take a picture of the person. But before we do the manual white balance, what I want you to do is take a picture of the person in your group. If you're not with somebody in the group, take a picture, kind of move up wherever you're at next to somebody, even if you have a manual white balance, both of you. Take a picture of each other in auto white balance. And then I want you to take a picture of each other using the manual white balance. Does that make sense? So, questions? So auto white balance first. So if you don't have a partner, go ahead and move up and find a partner real quick to do this. And, we really just need to do it one way, I guess. So if you're a person that doesn't have the manual white balance, you're just going to hold the card. The other person that has manual white balance is going to take your photo in auto. Then it's going to take your photo in manual white balance both. If both of you have manual white balance, you're going to take auto of each other and then manual of each other, just to kind of see the differences on your camera. Okay, so go ahead and start, and I'll walk around and help as needed. But make sure you are with a partner, whether you have manual or not. That would be great to expedite this lesson. Okay, all right, you're fine.
Everything or just
Yes, you already used. You already took the photo, it looks like. Did you take the photo already?
I haven't made it today.
Okay, go ahead and take a photo of this. You'll have to, I think, move it to select image probably.
And then set it.
Oh, yeah. So the way yours works is you're going to have to take the photo prior to changing it to manual. So go ahead and do that. Go ahead and take it out of manual mode. Just take the photo of the white paper. In fact, let me see your camera real quick. You should have another setting besides that.
That's how ours is
No flash.
Yeah, let me see here. You have it set manual, that's fine. In fact, yeah, manual's gonna be fine. Move over. There we go. Okay. And let me see, I'm in P mode, but I should be able to do it manual mode. Okay, I'm in P mode. I went to your menu, white balance, measure, overwrite, yes. Boom, right there. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Here you're going to take a photo of it now. So we'll keep that. I'll have you hold it. Get pretty close to the white card. Yeah, I'm going to stand up. Let's come over here to the white wall. Right here.
Oh, yeah, this one?
Yeah. Let me go back and make the menu on this.
How does it work? Start program. What does it make a difference?
Could you do me a favor back there, guys?
Do what happened? Now we can see.
Much better. Okay. Now we should get some more. Not enough light in here to do it.
Seeing it. Actually used I made a picture of made these. I was like, hey, actually use flash.
Alright, so let me take a picture.
They're cool. I like the fact that also vector images.
With holding the paper or just without the paper?
Right.
Without first. I'm just trying to get his to work here first.
After she does custom, do you want us to hold the paper? Because she already got the picture of the paper for the white balance.
If she already has a photo for white balance, you can switch back and forth even though you have the white balance set.
Okay,
You can go back to auto.
but she's going to hold the paper though.
She doesn't have to hold up like this.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
sorry.
I'm gonna have you move over here to the wider wall. Still not enough light.
Her prisoner number. With her,
Switch it up.
How long did the flash lesson take you?
And also,
Was it a 3 inch?
I haven't
Took
been
about
really
an
together.
hour.
I can see it separately.
Um,
16 or so.
I think about 3 hours. I think it took about an hour for each one.
I can't do it all at once.
So
Um,
it's
yeah,
I just go get it's too boring.
Ooh, mine looks
right?
Yeah, this looks
Now the new one's open for this one.
awesome.
I used to do it Sunday night.
Oh,
Okay, how, why?
It's the last class I get to.
He wants me to do this one.
There we go.
Like, which one?
let me go into
Okay, data required.
I don't like those tutorials.
And they're like, you
Now,
bounce here.
white balance.
I'd rather tell me to do something and not figure it out.
Set now.
And not do that and not miss something.
So now, go ahead and go against that wall.
Like the
I'll
flashing
take a
birds.
picture of you without the picture, without the white balance, without the paper.
Together.
Oh,
So they're going. So I had to go back and fix that. You know, skipping steps. I hate reading. I just like figuring stuff
Let me change this now.
a few times too, I noticed if I missed a step or something, like they forgot to
I
type
used it
something.
too.
It was like, what?
Alright, now I'm gonna switch it to
For the stupid stuff.
auto white balance.
I
Uh-huh.
don't need a hand for that.
This is okay over here. And I was like, yeah. You told us that in the last section. Where is
It's
this?
the hard stuff.
Yeah, that was like where the other stuff's at. Which you've never used
I
yet.
guess I'm good with
Let's
it.
do
Uh-huh.
auto.
So I fixed an hour section.
See what it looks like.
It's only 45 minutes long, I think.
Okay, so
What's even worse is I know you
play
never
your
use it.
images here.
I never will.
Yeah, I'm not going
So that was the one with auto.
No, because if you don't have the original file,
That was one manual.
you can never modify it.
Manual or no, auto, manual.
Right.
This was white balance using that one of the images you already had in there, the white, whatever white you had in there already. So that was the old white,
Maybe it's
new
just
white,
it's, make it
auto.
flash.
So auto and manual is actually pretty close because of the light group on that. So,
Well, there's only one you don't need to. HTML5 has it built.
did you guys have questions on yours?
Well,
I'm just saying like here.
Yeah.
because the way mine, it just says to take a picture, and then, like, when I take the picture, it says completed, and
Yep.
I go back, but it doesn't, like, really change.
Yeah, it's not probably because of the light in the room. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Go ahead and hold the picture up with a white paper up to you. Oh, yeah, auto, that's right. Well, let's go take this. Okay, and And let's see here.
My dad is he's just he used to do it in the military.
Okay. Without the papers. Yep. And then we'll go ahead and switch it to manual.
Yeah,
It's going to go to your white balance. You can come over here too.
so it's like flash.
Go down to,
Oh, it was already on.
Yeah, we'll take these two files.
And let's just go ahead and play here. Let's go ahead. Is that the one you took earlier? I think, right? Let's go back one.
That's cool. Is it a free app or no?
Let's see. Shutter. Renew white balance. Let's do that. Flip the paper up. You want to get as close as you can to the paper.
There's 65 ratings and most of them, well, 57 of them are 5 stars. 65 should be good.
Is it good?
Professor experienced that it's actually
Now, we're going to go ahead and
Oh,
it was set. We already set it complete. Got out of battery. I'm going to keep on manual mode. You go ahead and go back to the wall.
I'm using this revolution banner for WordPress.
okay.
And go ahead and put the paper down. So this is with the paper. Okay, so let's look at that was with a new piece of paper. I think that was auto, white, the manual. You notice the manual is a little darker than the auto, and probably one of the reasons is that backdrop we have this was white against that. So let's move somewhere else. Let's go to in fact, let's do this. Move this down just a little bit. And let's have you move right here. Yeah, let's have you move right there. And we're going to do the manual white balance.
Like you put video in it? That's cool.
I used it.
Let's go to
Okay. Can you just grab a plugin or something and throw that on the website?
Was this code? Yeah, it'd be a J.
I think it might just
Okay,
go
so
back.
add that portion to the website.
Nope, there you go. We're good. No, it's going to now.
Oh, so it's
Okay.
called Revolution Slide.
Oh, so this one.
And go ahead and put the
But the other
yeah,
one's
paper down.
So this seems like
Oh, J3
it's similar
plugin.
markup into so this one would just be code.
We're actually getting
Oh,
light
no,
from that
and
too.
then we'll see, could see.
Darker there. Now go ahead and hold the paper back up. Let's go with
Every time I come here, you take a whole history from people from back then. They don't know how to clear.
what
I always have
settings, custom. Okay.
Oh, okay, so I want to use
So it's basically like it tells you how long you want this condition to be.
Lighting's terrible in there.
Better than.
Yeah, it's about the same. In this room, it's terrible lighting. It's actually about the same, not much better. The last one was a little better, not with the lights in here, but Not much better.
Okay. So did you, for the in class, did you want us to, since you took the picture, do you still want me to upload it at the end of class?
Yeah, yeah, you can definitely upload the
Okay.
ones. Yep. Yep. How you guys doing over here? Good. Okay. Okay, well, let's go ahead and go over the, this lighting in here is terrible, by the way, as you probably already tell. Even putting a manual white balance is not going to help it any for this room. For this room, probably the best, instead of manual, would probably be the fluorescent white balance, I'm guessing. Or auto would work too. Probably fluorescent though, I'm guessing. So you've already taken some photos. We're going to say the photos you've taken, you're going to use for your in-class. We'll just say that's your in-class. How's that? Unless there's any arguments, that's your in-class. You're going to submit these photos that you've taken. Now, those of you that didn't have manual mode, do this for me or take it back. Just everybody's going to just submit done on this one. No, you're just going to submit done down below. And if you do have photos, meaning you had manual mode, you will upload them to week 6 in class. If you don't have manual mode, you won't upload them to week 6 in class. You're good. Make sense? So everybody's going to submit done in the in class. Just say the word done when you submit it to text entry. That's the in class. For your take home, what you're going to do is you're going to take it one step further here, and we're going to keep playing with your white balance. But you're going to, number one, set the ISO to auto recommended. I say auto or 100. I would say auto probably best for this exercise. Make sure if your camera's not already set this way, that you set the picture size to max and compression to best JPEG setting, quality setting. Yours might be a little different. It might be like superior JPEG or maximum JPEG. Just make sure it's set to max on the picture size and the best quality JPEG. So number one, ISO auto. Number two, max size on photo and best quality JPEG. Number three, you're going to use the auto white balance and you're going to shoot 4 pictures using each one of the below light settings. Okay? Auto white balance. You're going to do auto white balance in direct sunlight, in the shade, under tungsten, and under fluorescent. Now, you might not be able to find tungsten unless you go to Beefaroo, but some of you might have some tungsten still around the house. But all 4 of these settings, you're going to take it in auto white balance. Does that make sense? So you can see the differences. Kind of like tonight when you took manual in here, it actually looked worse than auto in here. And so questions on that. Auto white balance, 4 pictures or 3 pictures if you can't find tungsten. Everybody should be able to do direct sunlight in the shade and under fluorescent. Number 4, set the white balance to sunlight. Whatever your camera dial says for sunlight, for white balance, auto white balance, set it for that. Same pictures. Direct, shade, tungsten, fluorescent. So basically, when you're in a sunlight setting, you're going to do auto so far, and you're going to do sunlight so far. And number 5, you're going to basically take and choose a correct white balance for each one of the above shots and reshoot them. So here's a little graph here, a little chart. So if the condition's sunlight, the correct should be sunlight. If it's shade, it should be shade, auto white balance. If it's tungsten, tungsten, fluorescent, fluorescent. Okay? So at the end of the day, you should have at least 9 photos. If you can't get the tungsten column, don't worry about it. But you should be able to get auto sunlight and sunlight in the sunlight column, auto sunlight and shade in the shade column, auto sunlight and tungsten in the tungsten column. Make sense? I mean, fluorescent. Auto sunlight, fluorescent in the fluorescent column. If you can't get tungsten, don't worry about it. Upload these to week 6. For the labels in Foki, just label them accordingly to what your white balance setting was. Whether it be auto 1, 2, 3, or 4. What auto 1, 2, 3, or 4 is referring to is auto 1. 2, 3, and 4. And then you've got what? Sunny 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then correct 1, 2, 3, and 4. Challenge is optional. I would recommend doing it though if you have white balance or manual white balance on your camera just for practice. Set the manual white balance for the above photo settings. Remember to use your white sheet of paper, and also remember from tonight's exercise, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to make it look better for manual. Doesn't mean that. Questions?
So for 5, you want us to go like back to the place where we shot and shoot in all of them?
Yeah. So what you're basically do, if we make it easier here, on step 3 where I have you do auto white balance, you're basically going to do auto, sunlight, and then whatever the correct one is. So when you're in the sunlight setting, wherever that is, you do it this week. In that sunlight setting, do auto, sunlight, auto and sunlight twice. And then in the shade, you'll do auto, sunlight, and shade. And in the fluorescent area, you'll do auto, sunlight, and fluorescent.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
The chart actually makes more sense than what I just read. The chart makes more sense, I think.
So the
That's why I put the chart in there.
The chart applies to all 3 of them.
Do I know?
The chart applies to steps 3, 4, and 5. So,
Yeah, correct. Step 5 applies to everything prior to step 5 as far as what you're to do. Correct.
so I'll do the chart.
Do I know?
I'll just go with the chart then.
Yeah. The chart's a little nicer than the prior steps. Probably just left the chart in there. But then the challenge is if you do have white balance, manual white balance, play around with that and do a manual white balance for, I guess it would be manual white balance for sunlight, shade, and fluorescent. Questions? All right, well, that's it. I think everybody should understand this hopefully and have fun with your white balance. You will see a drastic change, especially when you're in some of these areas, like when you're in, say, sunlight or say shade, and you go to sunlight, or say you're in fluorescent and you go to sunlight, you're going to see a drastic change as far as the lighting goes anyway. So good job. Thanks for helping everybody tonight. And in groups is good. Get to know each other a little bit better. And be careful out there because it's still a little slick in the parking lot. It was earlier anyway when I came in.
So pretty much we have the auto and the fluorescent and whatnot, right?
Yeah, you have, everything but the tungsten, because you might not have tungsten around. You go be for real. I mean, I still have tungsten bulbs in my house, but I know a lot of people don't.
Those are the old school bulbs, right?
The old school bulbs, yeah, correct. And if you don't have it, you don't have it. So don't worry about it. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.